Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. So it's time for another episode of Franchise Wars. We are at number 7 on the list. This is the 7th installments of the Big Four. And we're not going to waste a whole lot of time with them. We're just going to kind of get right into it because, yeah, this one's got some stuff to talk about. So, number 4 on the list. Alright, so number 4 on this list for me is A New Nightmare. Now, I know a lot of people really rank this one high, but I don't rank this one high in the franchise at all, and it's certainly not going to be high on this list of these 4. So I saw this in the theater when it first came out and was just absolutely blown away by it. Couldn't wait for this to come out on VHS and home media thing. It was VHS in those days, yeah. So, as soon as it came out, I went out and bought it, took it home and watched it, and was like, really? Was this the movie that I watched? That I was, so taken by? And over the years, it's gotten worse, for me. It doesn't feel like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. There's no tension in it to me. Heather Langenkamp did such a great job as Nancy in part 3. Did a good job in part 1, considering, how long she'd been acting and everything she'd done. She did a good job with part 1. Wes Craven, great director, great writer. Not such a good actor. Very wooden, very stiff. I noticed that I've seen a lot of behind the scenes interviews with him. If you've ever seen, especially the Never Sleep Again documentary or any other interview with him, and he's such a warm and inviting person in real life. Playing himself, he completely misses that. Maybe if he was directed by someone other than himself, maybe he could have kind of got there. But when you're directing yourself, you just kind of, I don't know. Some people can do it, some people can't, and I just don't think that he did a very good job with this. Nancy's performance Heather's performance as herself also felt fairly stiff and fairly wooden and very much a letdown versus what she had previously done in the series. I really don't like the kid that played her son in it. I didn't like him in Pet Sematary. Didn't really like Pet Sematary, but I didn't like him in it. I just don't think was a very good child actor. The only person that I really liked in this, playing their character, playing themselves, and in this case playing the demon, was Robert Englund. I thought he did great in all of those. I love the scene where Heather's on the talk show and he comes out as the original Freddy. I do like the makeup that they put on the demon version of it. I love what they did with the glove being kind of a glove and kind of part of him and kind of the mix of the two together. I really like the look of that. Adding the thumb blade, that was really cool to me. I love how the makeup that they put on the face was kind of the best of the different Freddy makeups. But he didn't really feel menacing. Thankfully, he didn't feel like they were going for the comedy, but it just didn't feel menacing. I don't think that everybody else around it did a good job, and he was the only one that really worked for me. So the story was kind of... The story is still kind of a neat idea. I just don't think it was done very well in this one. I really do appreciate what this movie did, though. Because without this movie, we wouldn't have had the progression that we had. You wouldn't have had Scream without New Nightmare. You wouldn't have had the movies that came after Scream, and then you wouldn't have what people a lot are doing now, which is kind of rebelling against that, and going back to very much 80s style that we're getting now. I really enjoy some of that new stuff like that, and you wouldn't have it without the rebellion against the uber meta and all the stuff that came out after Scream, and you wouldn't have had Scream without this movie. So I respect what this movie did for the movies that came after it and where we are today. I just personally don't enjoy this movie at all. So let's move on to number 3. Alright, so number 3 on our list is Friday the 13th Part 7, Jason versus Carrie. The New Blood. That's really what it boils down to, is Jason versus Carrie. The Tina character has telekinesis. She can move stuff with her mind and control things. So basically in the beginning of it, her father's abusive. She kills him by tearing up the docks and him falling into the lake. 20 years later or whatever, she comes back. Her psychiatrist and her mother bring her back to the lake and to relive her trauma. It turns out that she's telekinetic, and a bunch of kids come rent the house next door and decide to have a party. The real problem with it is that the characters are so super generic and so one note. Well, it's not all the problems, but that's a big one. They're just so much cut and paste characters, and so much cut and paste characters of their time. It's really, really dated watching it now. The Tina character is the only interesting character. The love interest is boring. There's one character amongst them that's the typical bitchy girl. You have the cute nerd who's, just needs to take her glasses off, and, it's just so stereotyped. The mother is played blandly. The doctor is annoying. The actor who plays him, I've seen him in a few things that I liked him in. I've seen a few things that I didn't like him in because you aren't supposed to. He does play that type of character pretty well. He just doesn't pull it off here. The kills are dumb. They were neutered by the MPAA. And like I said, the characters are super bland. Everybody except for her. So the first 2/3 of this movie are boring. Are honestly just boring. There's nothing for you to do until the final confrontation. Now, once that starts, this movie goes way up. She really pretty much kicks Jason's ass. There are some really great moments in that. She sets him on fire, and they do a walking burn is what it's called. And I think at the time it was the longest continuous shot of one ever done, something like that. She compresses his head with his own mask, smacks him in the face with a light, knocks him through some stairs down into the basement. So once you get to that fight sequence at the end, man, if they could have kept up that kind of pacing through the rest of it, if it could have kept up that kind of the way that it's done, the way that it's shot, the movements of it, everything that happens in that final scene right up until the finale of it where she finishes him off, puts him back to rest. Okay, that was kind of a shit throwaway thing, but up until that point, that last third of this movie really kicks ass. It's not real high on my list, but that's one of the things that keeps it from being down at the bottom. And that's why it's better than New Nightmare. So let's move on to number 2. So number 2 on the list is Halloween H2O. Jamie Lee Curtis came back, really put some new life into the series. Instead of trying to figure out how to incorporate what's going on in this one with the end of the Thorn trilogy, they just kind of tossed that away. This is a direct sequel to Halloween 2, so this is the Halloween 3 that we wanted, that we should have gotten instead of the shit show that Season of the Witch was. It's not great. It's nice to see Jamie Lee back. It's a post-Scream world, so you have acknowledgments of Jason, you have acknowledgments of Freddy. Her mother, in real life, Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, has a small cameo in it, and references her role in Psycho. All of that stuff is really good. Again, the teenagers are kind of bland. Josh Hartnett's in this. LL Cool J's in this. Not as a teenager, he's the security guard. And he does an okay job. I don't dislike him in this. He's definitely come a long way now. If you watch the new NCIS Los Angeles episodes, you can see that he has really become a much better actor than he was at this time. But he doesn't do a bad job. Josh Hartnett's a little dry. You can see that he's going to be much better in the future. And, you know, he's pretty. So, and going to be a star. And you knew that watching that he has the charisma for it. He didn't necessarily have the acting in this, but he has the charisma for it. The others are kind of bland, but they're not horrible. Adam Arkin is in this, nowhere near as good an actor as his father, but he's somebody that you'll recognize from every bit part along the way. Is really good in this as an actor. The character is a dick, but you know. And Jamie Lee Curtis is believable in what she does in this. She brings the gravitas of being the actress that she was at the time. It's enjoyable. It's a post-Scream world. It's not great. It's not perfect. But honestly, it's one that I can put on and enjoy. I know a lot of people piss and moan about the 4 or 5 different masks, including a CG'd one. And yeah, that's when you do notice that's kind of annoying. And it can very much take you out of it, that's not the same mask that he's wearing from one scene to the next, and sometimes even in different shots in the same scene. But if you can just kind of block that out as as the way it goes, it's a pretty good movie. Personally, I really like the way that it ended. I know some people don't. It's kind of divisive on that one. I thought this would have been a great end to the series. It's obvious in the way that they did it that it could have been the end if this had flopped, or if it the success that it did have, if it got that, that it was a very easy way to get around the end of it. But the end of it is just epic. And honestly, to me, the way that this one ends is the way that Michael Myers needs to end whenever they get done with it. I mean, she takes his head off with an axe. You don't get more final than that, right? Epic way to end it. They didn't, but it was obvious in certain sequences that, that they were setting it up for, that could be the end or it could be a sequel coming. And we got a sequel that's Resurrection, and we'll talk about that next time. So let's move on to number 1. Okay, I know this is going to be a super unpopular opinion, but I don't care. My number 1 on this list is Texas Chainsaw 3D. Yes, this movie has some serious issues. The CG in it is bad. There are several sequences where it is where you could probably do better on a home computer with fucking Photoshop. But the monkeying with the timeline is a bit annoying. Some of the dialogue in it is a bit hokey, but goofy, but silly. And the 3D effects on it, whether you're watching it in 3D or not, I really wish they had taken the money that they wasted by doing this in a gimmick 3D crap and put it into better CG if they were going to use it, or better practical effects. But all in all, I find this to be a fun movie. And I don't care what anybody says. I enjoy it. Leatherface is menacing. Yeah, the timeline screwy thing. And here's another thing where they could have used that budget that they wasted on the 3D crap. Yes, to set it back a few years, and have it where it was, back 10 years earlier, taking place when this movie actually happens. Would have cost them a lot more money, because you have to have period clothes, you have to have period cars, you have to double and triple check that everything in the background is time appropriate. And yeah, they could have put that money into other things and cast an older actress. I think the actress that they cast is very good. I really enjoy her performance. I really like her, and I like her in this movie. And if you don't, I don't care. This is my list. The Leatherface mask looks really good. This is actually designed to be a direct sequel to the first one, taking out all three of the garbage sequels from the original franchise and ignoring the remakes. It doesn't quite capture the gritty, down-to-earth element of the remakes, and I think a lot of that has to do with the shitty 3D effects. The whole, doing things where they're watching it over the phone, yeah, that's crap. There's a line at the end of it that everybody loves to point out that just destroys the movie for them. It's dumb, but it's funny. Lighten up. This is not Shakespeare. Do your thing, cuz it's not Shakespeare. It's not the St. Crispin's Day speech. Suck it up and get over it. It's a fun movie. It's far and away better than 2, 3, or 4 ever thought about being. The meat grinder at the end of it's the one thing that really, really bugged me with the CGI. If you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go see it. Go see it with an open mind. Stream it. It's on Netflix, I think, or Amazon. It is definitely an hour and a half worth your time. Unless you're a snob, you're just not going to walk away from this on it and hate it. You may not love it, but you're not going to hate it unless you're a stuck-up elitist when it comes to horror movies. This movie is a B movie. It knows it's a B movie. It's a B movie with a good budget, and it's fun. It doesn't take itself too serious. Yes, there are plot holes in it big enough to drive a truck through, but you know what? So many other ones are the same, and you love them. Get over it. See it with fresh eyes. This is a damn good movie. And that's my list for this time. Rant over. Thank you so much for tuning in, especially if you stuck around to see the end of that one. As always, check the advocacy links down below. Right now is a very important time for that. Check out my Teespring link. It's down below. This shirt as well as the Full Moon logo shirt are there if you don't want the vape shirt. My fiance has a Vinted account. It's down there below. Pick your girlfriend up something nice from that. There's a PayPal down there. And as always, y'all be good, y'all be safe, and y'all have a good one.